if you're having some sound problems, we're at a new location because the my studios, right, the coronavirus has stopped everybody.
We have a brand new studio, what is it, 150?
150.
So
1120.
So this is getting set up. Again, my name's Jim Leahy, co-host of the Trust Radio Network and also the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy. And today we want to talk to you guys about the PPP program and let you guys know some breaking information that is going on throughout pretty much the United States here. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, attorney Stephen Leahy, I know he was just speaking a little bit. He's moving around, reaching around, having a good old time. You're connected here. So please bear with us. This is a first at Studio 150, but it won't be a last. We're going to have some great stuff going on here. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Attorney Stephen Leahy is the foremost professional when it comes to bankruptcies, when it comes to really helping small businesses achieve full financial protection. That is the number one focus of open tax resolution, right, is full financial protection. And a lot of people go through and go, well, I just need this service, I need that service, I need to be taken care of. But open tax resolution with their business protection program is second to none. And Attorney Stephen Leahy, I'm sure, will inform you as well what that program is about. Without further adu,
Hand me my laptop, Jim, please. Sorry. It's all right. It'll work. You can unplug your plug this. This will work. Okay, so why I wanted to get this laptop is because late last night, I got a notice about the changes in the PPP program for independent contractors and sole practitioners. And this is who's left, right? Because I don't know if you've seen the numbers, but of the $300 billion, $349 billion that was appropriated for this program, over 200 billion has already been appropriated. It's already gone. And so if you haven't yet applied, you're going to be left. But here's the thing: that's going through to pass to add $250 billion to that.
250?
$250 billion to that number. Okay, and so what I wanted to point out is what people are doing wrong is the way that they're, especially independent contractors and sole proprietors, right? As a company, companies have payrolls, so they have a 940, 941 tax documents to prove what their payroll was. And so when it came down time for independent contractors on April 10th, and that's when the independent contractors and sole proprietors could apply for this program, many of people were just using what their income was to determine what their loan amount should be. Now remember, your loan amount was supposed to be 2.5 times what your payroll is. Well, if I'm a sole proprietor or I'm a independent contractor, right? What is my payroll? My payroll is me. What? Okay, so
Connected to the microphone.
it's connected to. Okay, I don't know. We're having some technical issues, so. And that's what the whole point of this is to get us on, get us through this, figure out how we're going to use this new program. I bought a bunch of equipment so I can communicate with people. I always had the radio station, and I don't have that right now. So we're trying to come up with a way that I can get out in front of people and tell you what's going on. So again, one of the things that's happening, it has to do with independent contractors. And in the independent contractors, what happens is you have to look to your last year's taxes, 2019. Now, if you haven't filed 2019, you're going to have to go back to 2018, and what you're going to look at is Schedule C of your 1040 filing, because as an independent contractor, right, all of my business expenses are listed on Schedule C, and I hate to get buried in the minutia here, but this is, if you're going to apply for one of these loans, this is the way you have to do it. Okay, so these you have to go to Schedule C, line 31. I have a picture of it, but and in line 31, that's where you're going to find what what your net profit is. So here's my sales, and I subtract from all my sales all my expenses, rent, and whatever else other expenses I have, and the number that's left appears on line 31, and that's defined as net profit. That's the number that I can use to divide by 12 and then multiply by 2.5. Okay, so if my net profit was $80,000, I divide that by 12 and I multiply by 2.5. That number would be about $16,000, $16,666, and that would be the loan amount that I get. But what if I grossed 80,000, but then I had expenses and it brought me down to 23,000? Well, let's say it's 24,000. Well, now if it's 24,000, I divide that by 12. That's 2,000, and I multiply it by 2.5. That's 4,000, and another 1,000. That's $5,000. Then that's going to be my loan amount. See, so it makes a huge difference. If because you ask people, well, what was your income last year? My income was $80,000. Well, that's what I'm going to use to determine what this amount is, and the answer is no. That's not what they're using. What's happening here is that when they first dream up these programs, right? The congressmen and everybody get together and say, "Oh, let's make this so easy on people. Let's make it easy to apply." Now, I have to admit, we're just 2 months into this, and so even if 2 weeks into this, and so so this is fairly quick for government, right? To do anything in 2 weeks. As I mentioned, I think that $200 billion has already been allocated, and so in order for small business people to get some payments, and a lot of us are counting on these payments, right? Because how are we going to make that we've heard about this program, we've kind of already spent the money, we've already counted. Companies have left employees on thinking that they're not going to have to pay it, right? Because they're going to get this loan, and this loan's going to help pay for these employees that they couldn't otherwise pay. And if we go through this and then they can't get the loan, well, then they won't be able to pay their employees, and now they've taken a lot of debt, or they've exhausted all their resources on the hope of a loan that they're never going to get. And this is what the problem is. And again, when they came up with this idea, it was to help independent contractors. But when the regulators get a hold of it at the SBA, they start coming up with regulations and the way to go through this. Your own bank, I think many banks have imposed processes that weren't required in the law. But because this is what they do in all loans, they don't want to come back, the IRS to come back later, or the federal government to come back later and say, no, you didn't you gave these loans away, they're fraudulent, and now you're going to have to eat them because we're not going to pay you back for them. And then the people who got them are going to default on them because they didn't have to go through any vetting process for the loan. So they don't care what your credit score is or what your history is. And so many of these people, if the government doesn't guarantee it, they're never going to get paid, the bank. So they're following their own procedures to vet people and to underwrite these loans like they would any other loan. And that's what's causing trouble. Another thing that's happening is many people are applying for these loans. They think once and you go to your bank and you go to the portal and they ask you some simple questions and you fill it out. They say, okay, you're just processing. And it's not till a week later, now you're going to get an email from your bank that says, oh, by the way, we need all of this substantiation. You have to send us a bunch of documents, your 940s, your 1040s, and Schedule C, all of this to prove what those numbers are. And you may not be prepared for that. And if you're not prepared for that, that's going to set your processing back. And if your processing gets set back, you may not get the loan because it's not moving fast enough. Okay, and again, they're going to this loan when they created this program, it was designed to end June 30th of this year, or until the funds exhausted. Well, the funds are going to be exhausted way before June 30th of this year, and so why that a lot of people have kind of, well, I got a lot of time to do this. You really don't have a lot of time. The numbers are coming. the numbers are enormous. They're being used every day, and the money's going to be exhausted. So if you need this loan, you got to really jump it. Now, one thing, so there's three other things, the three things I wanted to talk about today. First was that PPP, what I just talked about, and to make sure that you get in line as fast as you can, and you get the substantiation to your bank as fast as possible. That's so very important. Okay. The next thing I wanted to talk about is what you should do about cash flow. One of the biggest, and I think I always couch it in the term, if I can, here's a way for you to get a loan to pay 3 months of your mortgage payment with little or no interest. Okay, here's how it goes. I go to my mortgage company. These are called a forbearance. So I ask for a forbearance agreement, and the forbearance agreement simply says that the bank agrees that I don't have to pay them for 3 months or 2 months, whatever the bank proposes. Now I got to tell you myself, I went to my bank and before the April payment was due, and I asked for a forbearance, and it was granted. It was simple questions. They asked me first, do you expect that you're going to have a loss of income? And under the coronavirus, everybody's presumed to have a loss of income or an effect on them. And then the second question was, does it have to do with Corona? And if the answer, I answered both those, that's yes, it has to do with Corona. And then they granted me 3 months. Now, but here's the catch, and there is a catch. There's always a catch. The catch is that if I don't repay it by July 1st, so not only July 1st payment, but all the 3 months of the payments, right? So 3 months plus July. So I'm gonna have 4 months of payments due on July 1st. They have upfront told me, well, what if you can't make the payment in July? They have programs. Now I can tell you this forbearance agreement is good because not only are they loaning you the money, say you don't have to pay them for 3 months, but there's no effect on your credit score, and there's no effect on your credit with them, and so there's no derogatory information shared with the credit reporting agencies. If you go beyond that July, then there may be. I don't know what's going to happen. I think the more people that are having problems when it comes July, the less likely they are to report it to the credit reporting agencies. And then they have some other avenues for you to remedy this. If it comes July and you didn't get the money from the government and you're out of money and you can't pay your mortgage, and now you're saying, well, I shouldn't have done that. Well, obviously, if you ran out of money, you wouldn't have had the money anyway. But now they're going to have things like loan modifications. A loan modification is when the bank agrees to change the terms of your loan. So maybe they go longer term, or maybe they change the interest rate, or maybe they change some other term in your contract to lower your payments. Or what's typical in a case like this is that they would take the 3 months that you're behind and add it to the end of the loan. So if I had a 30-year loan, and so that's 120 months, they'd add 3 months to it, and so now I have a 123-month loan instead of 120 months, and they would just add it to the end, and I'm going to pay interest on all of that money for the extra 3 months, and that would be the typical loan modification in a situation like this. But they're also going to grant what they call repayment plans. Now, a repayment plan is different than a loan modification because it doesn't really change the contract that you're under right now. What it does is just gives you a structured payment. So maybe I pay an extra $500 a month for the months until I get current, or maybe or whatever the number is, depending on who my bank is and what the outstanding balance is and how quickly they want to get paid. That you can work out some sort of repayment plan to pay that off when it comes due. Another way, so we talked about modifications or another forbearance agreement. Now, again, another forbearance agreement might be helpful. It'll kick the can down the road. So if you have some government loans that are out there, maybe because I think there's going to be another round and maybe a third round after that and maybe a fourth round after that. Depends. Remember that the first round of the PPP was the state at that time. It was scheduled to end. stay-at-home order was scheduled to end on April 15th. That's today. Remember now, today's tax day, and so this was when it was scheduled to end, but it didn't. It's not ending. So people are going to need more money than Congress had anticipated when they passed the PPP or the CARES Act, what they call the CARES Act. Let me get a drink of water here.
Boy, you're really going in there. And again, if anybody has any questions regarding any information that we're talking about, please feel free to ask away. Right now, we're going to be doing the live stream. I know that we were supposed to sign up for the webinar, but due to, again, Studio 150 difficulties, which is only going to happen once, because I know that we're going to get this knocked
Aren't
out.
they on? Aren't we on?
Yeah, we are on. We got a lot of people watching. So again, if you have any questions, please ask away. We'll try to answer them for you. I'm going to be sitting in the other room. I'll be trying to answer and write to you guys, and also send them over to Attorney Stephen Leahy. We're going to get this into a finely tuned machine. So if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask, because the only way you're going to get any information on these SBA loans and the PPP loans, and listen, you have to ask these questions, because if you don't get in line, if you don't ask the questions, if you don't act now, you're not going to be able to receive any aid. I mean, I know that they're talking about doing other bills, and they're talking about running more debt up. Regardless of that, as we are going right now, as what is the date? April 15th? As of April 15th, 2020, this is the state of what's going on right now. A lot of people have received their stimulus checks, right? So those are going to be coming out. And I know a lot of people are going to have problems with those stimulus checks, like that Indiana guy. It's not really a problem. He's got $8 million in the bank. They put $8 million in his bank account. So, without further ado, Attorney Stephen Leahy, if there's a couple questions or any comments on there, we'll go ask away. Let me go get my computer, and we'll go from there, okay?
So again, that's the second thing. Remember, the first thing is the PPP loan. Get that PPP loan. The second thing is go to your mortgage company and ask for a forbearance agreement, and maybe down the road you're going to need a loan modification or some sort of repayment plan. But again, right now, what we got to do is protect as much cash as we can to get to the other side of this, because if we use all our money for mortgages, we won't have money to eat. We won't have money to pay our companies, and we'll be in trouble. Okay, so again, the key is, first, try to get as much money as you can from these loans. Second, get this loan or this loan modification, actually a forbearance agreement. Then the third thing you want to think about is protecting your assets. Okay, because if the worst thing that happens is that that you're going to have to file for protection under the bankruptcy law. Now, God forbid that happens, but I must say, and you've been seeing a lot of news reports about this, that there are lots of that they're expecting the bankruptcy filings to go way up. And the longer that people are out of work, the more likely that's going to happen. Another thing that's going to happen is foreclosures. And foreclosures are going to, because people can't, if I get a forbearance and then I come to the end, I still won't be able to pay.
I got a question for you regarding 1099 employees. I don't know if you addressed this, but I had somebody text and wanted you to, and they wanted to reiterate. When is the period for 1099 employees going to be able to go for unemployment? Are we able to sign up now, as again through this text?
The answer is you can get as you're an independent contractor, you're available for unemployment in your state. So you have to kind of weigh what would make more sense for you to get, this loan or unemployment. You can't get both. And what I've heard here in Illinois, that anybody with a independent contractor who's trying to get unemployment, you're not going to get any money until May. Maybe the middle of May, maybe the end of May.
Oh, wow.
So so you're gonna have to make it. I don't know how people.
So this is so important. Again, what you were saying is get in line, because if you're gonna sit there and not and wait for your turn or I'll sign up on my leisure or whenever, well, you're not gonna get the money. So It's important to take make hay while the sun shines.
Well, absolutely, and again, I think that a lot of people are figuring, as I mentioned, that this program is supposed to last to June 30th, but there's not going to be money until June 30th. They're going to run out of money, and so you've got to get in line now. I got a call today from someone who went to his bank, and his bank stopped taking applications. So now he's searching for another bank. I got a call today from the gentleman that I've been working with for these banks, And the one lender he was using stopped his. They closed the portal and they stopped taking loans. But he found it. He's got another one. So we have another independent lender who would lend money under this program. Again, you get to find that these lenders that will take a loan or let you apply under this program. So, but okay, I wanted to talk about asset protection because again, now whether you're ever going to file bankruptcy or not, one of the smartest things always to do is to protect your assets in case things don't go the way you think they're going to go. And if you're an independent contractor or a small business person, you understand a sole proprietor. You understand that. You know, it's always difficult, and that's why we have things like business entities, you know, subchapter S companies, LLCs, right? Is to protect our assets. If we're successful, we're buying things, and when we buy things, if something goes wrong, they can come after my assets, and so that's one reason why. If you're a sole proprietor right now, I want you to think about. And now would be a good time because you're experiencing it. Think about trying to incorporate and start some sort of business entity and come up with a plan to help you with your taxes. Because what people don't realize is the self-employed, the independent contractors, and the sole proprietors, they pay the most in taxes of anybody. And the reason why that is because they're not only they're paying their income tax, but they're paying both sides of the Social Security tax and the Medicare tax and all these other state tax, federal tax. So all of that is being added to your tax roll, and so you're overpaying on taxes if you're a sole proprietor. Now, many people believe, well, you know, I don't really make that much money, so maybe I shouldn't. I guess there is some sort of level where it doesn't make any sense, but it's much lower. That level's much lower than you think it is in order to do it. It does cost money to start a corporation and pay the extra, but it generally is going to save you, 15% of your taxes. And I can go through it right now. And let me give you a kind of an example of why that might be. Is let's say I make $100,000, and that was my profit last year. Well, if I'm a sole proprietor, what happens is I have to pay 20% on that money. Okay, so that's $20,000. And I have to pay 15% in self-employment tax. So that's another $15,000. So I'm paying $35,000. If I created an entity and I became an employee of my own company and I paid myself $50,000 in salary. Well, now I'm paying 15%, but 7.5% as an employee, 7.5%. I'm talking about Social Security now and Medicare into my so that would be $7 at the end of the year on $50,000 would be $7,500. I still made $100,000, so I'm going to pay 20%, so that's $20,000, and then I'm only going to pay the $7,500 in Social Security taxes. Well, now I'm at $2,750. I just saved myself $7,500. Well, if it costs me another $1,000 a year to do an extra tax return or when start this up, I'm still up $6,500, and next year I'm going to be up $7,500. So the first thing you want to do is so not only does it reduce my taxes, but then it protects my assets. So if I do something in my business and someone sues my business, they're not going to reach my own assets, my boat that I bought, my house, my home that I have, my car that I own outright, my second home that I might have, a little cabin I might own. So if I'm not incorporated, they go after all those assets and make me pay them, right or wrong. And as we know, people get sued even if they haven't done anything wrong in their mind. Okay, and you could still lose a lawsuit and lose everything that you have, and that's why you want to come up with some sort of.
Yeah, I mean, OJ won that court battle, and he was clearly, he was allegedly, the killer.
Well, yeah, that's true, and so
I don't want. Now I'm going to get sued for saying that.
No, I say, people think that the courts are about justice, but it's really not. Because a lot of unjust things happen in the name of the courts. So again, what you want to do is protect yourself the best you can, and that's the three things I wanted to talk about here on this podcast today, or this discussion. I don't even want to call it a podcast because I really wanted to discuss with people about what they what they might, any questions that they might have.
Yeah, and again, we were supposed to be doing a webinar today, but decided that this was the best option for what we were capable of doing right now in Studio 150. But again, if you have any questions, you can give Open Tax Advocates a call at 312-664-6649. You guys are really on the forefront of this whole SBA, PPP loans, and making sure that you're informing the public. I know I've been sitting with you for the past couple of weeks here, and you have just been absolutely calls left and right asking about this. So if you're sitting there thinking, well, I'll get to it eventually. Well, don't get to it eventually. Get in line, just like everybody else, because if you don't get in line, you're going to be in trouble. And that's just the truth. I think that they projected somewhere 150,000 restaurants throughout the United States are going to fail. And this is just not, we're just talking to restaurants. If you don't sign up and if you don't protect your assets, then you're going to, chances are with this shutdown, you're going to have trouble. That's just the truth. And Open Tax Advocates is there for you. And I don't know if you talked a little bit about the Business Protection Program, if you want to talk about it.
I haven't, but let me talk about the Business Protection Program. It includes a lot of these things that I just talked about.
Do you want me to pull it up right here? Or?
No, it includes those three things I just talked about, right? It talks about getting you this loan. And what you might not understand is that there are other loans out there. There's the disaster loans from the SBA that may be available for you, that you need to go through. Now that those are based on creditworthiness and all that, and so now's the time to get it, because if you have good credit now and down the road you won't be because of what's going on here, now's the time to try to get the loan. And then the second thing is about advice about trying to come up with the forbearance agreement. There's other ways that you can use to try to save yourself some expenses going forward and try to hoard as much cash as you can. And that's some advice that we give you through tax advice, legal advice. I can't tell you how many people I've helped. That's what we talk about full financial recovery, because when someone comes to me and they have IRS problems, they often have other problems. They're behind in their mortgage. They haven't paid their credit cards for a while. And so if you go to a tax outfit, they're going to help you with the taxes, but they can't really help you with this other stuff. And so that's what makes us a little bit different, is that we're really concerned about full financial recovery, and that you don't only fix the tax problem, because let's face it, if you just fix the tax problem, you're not going to be much better off. Right? So you have to sometimes fix the credit card issue, the mortgage issue, save your home for your family. And so there's different avenues to go about trying to do that. Well, I've had many clients. They come to see me to help them with their taxes, and they already have a foreclosure attorney, or they already talked to a bankruptcy guy, and they might have a guy that was working with them with a loan modification. And let me tell you something about lawyers. They don't work well together. Okay, so when you have 4 different lawyers trying to work on the same case, it doesn't work well. You really need someone that's going to bring this all together and help you, plan ahead and take on all of these issues as they arise. We don't know what's going to arise, and that's why we really have to. You really need someone in your corner to address your questions to, that's going to give you honest answers, and it's going to help you solve this problem.
I know one of the things that, again, you help out with the Business Protection Program is cash flow advice and cash flow assistance. I think that's, especially in a time like this, right? I think that's incredibly crucial, and especially when we open up again, too, is having, somebody sit behind and give you that kind of rundown on how these taxes are going to be filed out, and, what are you able to, not only with cash flow, but for example, another thing that the Business Protection Program provides is, again, you take a look at insurance claims and see where they can, where they can align with insurance claims. And a lot of people are going to skip over that because they just don't know.
Well, yeah, I agree. And one of the things that is going to happen here is that we talk, and that's part of this. That's part of this forbearance agreement that I talked about. Just the tip of the iceberg, the easy remedy there. The low-hanging fruit, if you will, is to try to get that loan modification. But you can do this with your business rental. If you have an office, for instance, or a warehouse that you're paying rent on, you might have to do something like that because maybe you don't have the cash flow to cover it. You could do the same thing with your credit cards. You can do the same thing with vendors. So vendors are looking to get paid, and maybe you're trying to hoard some cash, or maybe you just don't have the money to pay them. And so instead of leaving them hanging, you know, you need to get involved and get and because at this point that everybody's suffering, and so they're going to give you more leeway if you're negotiating with them and involved and engaged rather than just turn off the phone and hope that nobody bothers me, and so that's what a lot of this is about, right? Is getting engaged, coming up with a plan, and getting to the end of this, okay? Because we will get to the end of it, and we try to get in the best shape possible.
What do we say on the Trust Radio Network? We will dance again, and that is the truth. Eventually, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be out in the streets dancing again, enjoying ourselves. But before we do, there's going to be tough times. That's just the truth. And that's just the reality of the situation. And this is why we are focusing so heavy, not only on what we do with the Trust Radio Network, because, again, Open Tax Resolution or Advocates is a sponsor of that show, and that show wouldn't be around without them. But, again, this is what Open Tax is doing, is we're really focusing on small businesses and trying to keep you guys afloat, because the big businesses, they'll be fine. There's going to be no problems with them. They already have their money. They have their people. They paid big cash, and that's who you're competing against. Let's face it. That's all this is a competition for. It's the small businesses against the big businesses. They have no problem, but you will, and that's the truth. And without that, without open tax, and without another attorney that's going to help you get through this tough time or get you through the loan process, it's going to be a tough time. I know, because I'm doing it for my business. You know.
So again, I wanted to let you all know that I am here to answer questions. If you don't want to put them up here, then we can call me at 312-664-6649, and we can answer your questions for you and help you through this. We all have to get through it. You know, to me, the lifeblood of America is small business people. So people out there that are working every day and working for themselves and trying to survive. And that's what we're here to help you do. So thanks so much for watching, and thanks so much for tuning in. And again, if you have any questions, you can call me at 312-664-6649.
Or you can sign up at federalcoronaloans.com. Again, federalcoronaloans.com. I posted it on the Facebook Live video right here from Open Tax. Just click that link right there. You'll be able to go and sign up for the newsletter and stay informed of what's going on. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Remember, Trust Radio Network, IRS Radio Hour, and Open Tax Advocates are there for you.
And we're going to be here on Friday. So Friday around 1:30. You can come in. I'll probably send it out. We're going to try to do the same thing here on Vimeo and online Facebook and everything.
Yeah, as we branch out at Studio 150. But for right now, there's a question. As an independent contractor who doesn't have a bank, how do I apply?
Well, and I've gotten a couple of questions like that just today, because the answer is there are lenders out there for you, but you have to really search long and hard for them. I have one. If you know, for people in my that joined the business protection plan, you know, we have a lender that we're working with. The first lender we were working with is no longer taking any applications, but there is another one now, and so they are available. It depends on what you want to do. Obviously difficult to hire a lawyer at this point, because the cash flow is tough.
From right here from the Chicago, I don't mean to cut you off, but the Chicago Tribune's reporting coronavirus may cost Metro 97% of April ridership and leave $500 million budget hole for over the next 2 years. That's that's Metro. But you don't think that's going to happen to any other small businesses? You're not going to be in. I know you're not going to be in a hole for several years. That's just the truth, and that's why you need to get in touch with these small business loans.
I agree with that. So again, and again, this is just round one. There's going to be another round. We hope that they fully fund this one, so round one is going to be successful for all of us. Again, the government doesn't plan very well, and they always, at the beginning, they always sound like they have this great plan, but it doesn't always turn out like they said it's going to turn out. And so that's why you need help. That's generally why people need a lawyer or someone in my line of work to help them get through this, because what we do every day is put together packages and financials for people and companies to prove that to get the best deal with the IRS that they can. And it's the same thing with the bankruptcies when we help people with bankruptcy. The same thing with loan modifications. You have to present information to get the modification you're looking for, and it's all about numbers and substantiation, and that's what we do every day.
I know that there is. I don't know if you addressed this comment, but it says have you addressed the EIDL ramifications to the PPP and the limits on the EIDL grant?
Okay, so that's the disaster, disaster grant that's out there. There was a grant beforehand, and what they did, they decided that they were going to give $1,000 per employee. If you get that money and you use it, actually it was intended to be subtracted from any other loan that you got. Okay, so if I get $7,000 and they loan, and I was supposed to get a $50,000 loan, they're only going to give me a $43,000 loan because they've already given me $7,000. But if I have another loan, then what will happen is you're not supposed to use it for the same purpose. Okay, so if you're using it for payroll, then you can't use this money for payroll. Okay, so that's just how that works. If you don't have any other questions, obviously my phone's ringing off the hook here, so I'm going to have to answer it, and I'm going to have to answer advice. So that's what people are calling me for. So thanks so much for listening. As I mentioned, if you have any questions, first you could join us. I'm going to send out a blast of where you can find us on Friday. We'll be here Friday at 1:30, and I'm going to answer this, and you can watch our show. We're gonna talk to Adam McMahon, I believe, from Chimney
Fireplace and Chimney Authority.
We're going to talk to him, and we're going to what's going on with his small business and what they're doing in this crisis, and we're going to address on the IRS Radio Hour also this crisis, because this is what's affecting the most people. So anyway, thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to you joining us again on Friday. And again, if you have any questions, 312-664